U.S. includes Tennessee ball clay. Tennessee clay is a key ingredient in the production of ceramic tiles and countertops. Up the road in Clarksville is one of North America's largest tile manufacturers.
Good morning. We'll call this meeting of the Advisory Task Force on Solid Waste to order. Clerk, please take the roll.
Okay. Mr. Greg Duckett is present. Mr. Michael Mallon is present. Ms. Donna Barrett is present. Mr. Matt Harriman Is present Mr. Doug Giles?
Present.
Is present Miss Misty Kern? Is present Mr. Denny Hastings? Mr. Kevin Brooks?
Present.
Is present Miss Stacy Cawthorn?
Present.
Is present Mr. Scott Thomas?
Present.
Is present Representative Rusty Grills? Is present Mr. Matthew Turner? Is present Mr. Jeremy Hooper?
Present.
Is present Representative Chris Todd? Is present Senator Shane Reeves? Is present Chairman. You have 14 members present.
Thank you for that. If everyone would join me, I would ask Chairman Grills to lead us in a prayer and a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all, and I will turn it over to Chairman Reeves for some opening comments.
Thank you, Chairman Todd. Appreciate the good crowd today. We'll try to get out of here before the snowmageddon hits us later tonight. For the committee members, as far as today's agenda is concerned, you'll see on there we have 6 different presentations today. We've got some lunch worked in there after 4 presentations, we can kind of see how things are going. I'd love to do as many presentations as possible before we get to lunch. Then after lunch, we're going to kind of have an afternoon discussion, and you'll see the page that everyone has that has some of the highlighted bill ideas. We asked members of the committee just to suggest ideas on maybe solutions moving forward. So went through and highlighted a number of them. We can't talk about all of it, but would ask if one of those is yours, that you just make a comment or two regarding what your idea is, and as a committee we can talk about it. This is our 3rd committee, and I think the more time I spend studying this, the more complicated it gets. Looking at this overall solid waste issue, I put a couple of comments in your package as well, just overall observations that in regards to solid waste. This is a systems challenge, not a single project fix, was the first thing I thought of. Solid waste isn't one issue with one solution. It's an interconnected system. You've got collections, you've got hauling, you've got disposal, recycling, organics, construction, demolition, waste. If our goal as a task force is to move forward to make Tennessee the best in America by 2050, we've got to deal with this as a system. We've got to strengthen the full system, not just optimize one little piece of it. The second observation is, as a task force, I hope we can keep focusing on the end in mind and build a measurable path to get there. We can debate tactics as a task force, but we need clarity on what truly the best in America looks like as we move forward, and how we're going to measure that progress and what incentives need to be put in place. And then the third observation is, this is an all hands on deck process. It's going to take public sector, private sector, urban, rural, top to bottom to keep this moving forward. But I don't think there's anything that nobody up here doesn't know, but it just continues to point to the size of the challenge that's in front of us. So I'm ready to get things started today, unless you want to make any other opening comments. Ready to go? All right. Do we need to go out of session for these presentations, or just go? We're not official, so we can just keep going? Okay. All right. So we're going to get started today with our friends from the Tennessee Environmental Council. If you want to come up to the microphone, introduce yourself. Take a 10 or 15 minutes or so, and a little time for the committee. Mr. Bear, we're glad you're here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Should be able to
You good on microphone?
hit the button. the button on the base
Should be
there,
right up.
on the base. It'll light up there.
Thank you. Chairman Todd, Chairman Reese, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Task Force members, it is an honor to be here. I am inspired by the vision you have set of being a national leader by 2050. This has been my career for the past 33 years, advocating for recycling as a solution to the overburden on our landfills. And this is a first. I've never seen anything more inspiring or empowering or meaningful than this dialogue at this level of leadership. So thank you for this. My name is Jeffrey Berry. I am CEO of Tennessee Environmental Council. Are you all ready? Ready to be inspired?
Yeah.
Ready to talk trash? I'm not much of a trash talker. But Tennessee Environmental Council is a statewide nonprofit organization founded in 1970. And we are a nonpartisan organization, and we have an incredible, I want to just have to give a shout out to our incredible staff. We're a small organization, $1.5 million budget. And that was a record for our organization the past year. This is our team. We have a small staff, but we have a big impact. And that's because our staff is passionate about what we do. We believe in the cause of improving our environment. And we found that the people of Tennessee are eager to be involved in that, in taking care of our environment. We work toward thriving habitats, a circular economy, and climate balance in Tennessee. That is our vision. We have 5 core initiatives that work toward that vision. And I want to give 5 core initiatives that work toward the vision of thriving habitats, circular economy, and climate balance in Tennessee. And if I could get the thing to pause. I want to give props out to our Tennessee Tree Team. We organize the largest tree planting event in America. It's called Tennessee Tree Day. It happens here. This is the 12th annual, coming up in March 21st this year. We set up 174 pickup sites so your neighbors and your constituents can pick up trees to plant at their homes and farms. And everything I'm talking about is available on our website. So if you have any other questions or need more information, but we strive to and do in fact achieve making a statewide impact. The dots on this map show where our projects have landed, and we've had volunteers planting those trees and habitats, and recycling at our roundups, and improving our streams. So this is a statewide organization with a statewide impact. And we have been devoted to solid waste solutions since the 1980s, seeking recycling, expanded recycling services across our state. In November, we hosted a solid waste forum, and several of you were there. And we heard from panelists that included local elected officials talking about the Rutherford County issues around the Middle Point landfill. And we had a panel that was exploring extended producer responsibility as a solution, these policies as a solution. We had a panel that was that TDEC came and presented on the 2035 solid waste plan, and I'm on the steering committee for that planning process as well. And we also heard from industry leaders and talking about solid waste solutions for Tennessee. And so we're very grateful for those panelists and experts and leaders who came and participated. Thank you, Chairman Reese, for kicking off the event with the keynote and the opening of our presentation. It was a very meaningful event to talk about the solutions to our solid waste crisis, because we do have a crisis in Tennessee. And it's not just landfills. The Tennessee River, our beloved Tennessee River, is one of the most polluted in the world in terms of microplastics. And those plastics are derived from plastic bags and packaging that end up on the ground in illegal dumping sites, and just as litter in our communities ends up in our rivers and streams. So microplastics is a serious problem, and the question is, have you ever come across a scene like this in your community? Trash. This is the Tennessee River. Most of those product items can be recycled, and whose responsibility is it to clean this up? That's one of the key questions, responsibility, and obviously you all are doing your part to take responsibility, and we're certainly very appreciative of your efforts here. But Tennessee produces 30% more trash per person than the national average. And we're 48th in recycling, which is the bottom of the country. So we have, it's a high bar to be a leader in the nation, and I know we can do it. And we're here as an organization to work with you all as you go through your process to work toward the solutions. The amount of trash we create and the small amount that we recycle is what has given rise to the landfill crisis. And the landfills are running out of space according to the TDEC's solid waste plan and the research that has gone into that. Our landfills, half of our landfills in Tennessee will be at capacity within the next 20 years, 2 decades. So I have a 21-year-old daughter. 2 decades goes by fast. So we urgently need the solutions now. What you see in this picture is the Middle Point landfill. And I will say 75% of the materials going into that landfill and landfills across Tennessee, 75% of that material is recyclable, has economic value. And it's an enormous amount of resources that we are burying in the ground currently that doesn't need to be that way. And we feel, Tennessee Environmental Council feels that recycling is the solution. And the only questions are, how do we pay for it and how do we improve the recycling? Because it's already happening in Tennessee. There's a number of wonderful examples you'll hear about later. But Tennessee Environmental Council has created a program of recycling roundups. And I want to share briefly about our experience working with solid waste directors across Tennessee and county officials in bringing the recycling roundups to communities across our state. This is an award-winning initiative. It received the Governor's Environmental Stewardship Award in 2024. We're greatly honored to receive that award. So the program works and it's phenomenal. We invite households to bring us their used mattresses to clean up, to drive through, to drop off. Mattresses, tires, electronics. S3 Recycling Solutions is our electronics recycling partner. Scrap metal. And people drive in and show up in droves. And we actually accept about 16 different material types at our recycling roundups. All these things, people don't often think of these as recyclable materials, but they are going in landfills, but they can be recycled. They have economic value. So we invite volunteers. We invite the Tennessee-based companies that are recycling those materials to be at the roundups. At the end of the day, they load up their trucks and drive back to their facilities to process all those materials that we collect. 16 different materials. And I would like to give a shout out to our partners, but the recycling roundups are very effective. There's huge demand in our communities. The people of Tennessee are ready to recycle, as you will see. We like to give a shout out to our partners and sponsors that have made the work possible and that are in the business of recycling. At a typical roundup, this is what will happen. Hundreds of cars will show up during the 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. time frame, and their cars and trucks are full of the materials I already talked about, and we unload the materials and load them at the vehicles. And so I wanted to, we load up our trucks. We had our record-breaking recycling roundup in November, just this past year, where we recycled 75,000 pounds in 4 hours. And that's volunteers and our staff unloading those cars to the tune of 9 tons per hour of materials that we're unloading and putting in trucks every hour for 4 hours, 75,000 pounds total. But the grand total, since we've been doing this since 2022, by the way, Nissan is a proud partner and supporter of this, and that's where we held the recycling roundup in Smyrna in November at their plant in Smyrna. So we've accomplished and delivered 34 roundups across the state of Tennessee. Everywhere we go, there's demand for the services. These are counties that wanted us to come and do a roundup. So we put the word out and said, we can do this for you. And these are the communities that said we would like a roundup in our community. So the demand for recycling is statewide. And since 2022, we have serviced over 6,000 households. We have recycled over 800,000 pounds of those materials that I mentioned. And we're continuing on. We have several already scheduled for this year, and I will give you more. I'll give you an invitation to one of our roundups at the end of my presentation. The 16 materials that we talked about that we collect at our recycling roundups are actually, there are policies that would help recycle those, and they're called extended producer responsibility policies. And these are not new. They've been going on for decades. There are policies that are being adopted nationwide to recycle batteries, carpets, electronics, junk mail, packaging, tires, mattresses, all the materials we talked about, and 21 different materials in total. So these policies are tried and true. They work. They provide the funding that is needed for for the recycling services to be able to be improved and for recycling education. 35 states in America have adopted some form of extended producer responsibility covering 21 different materials. There's 146 policies nationwide currently. As you can see, there's nothing in Tennessee right now as far as extended producer responsibility. And yet we are here in the hub of the Southeast, which is the sixth largest economy in the world, the Southeast region. So we are perfectly positioned to be a leader in the collection and the aggregation of these materials that have huge economic value. And I'm going to show you a video, a short documentary that we produced that shows how much potential there is in Tennessee, how much economic potential for recycling those materials. The only policy currently being considered in the General Assembly right now is the Tennessee Waste to Jobs Act, the only extended producer responsibility. And then a presentation a little bit later, we'll talk more about that bill, that legislation, but we do support it. Tennessee Environmental Council's Board of Directors voted unanimously to support the Waste to Jobs Act and to help capture that enormous value that is currently being buried in our landfills. We produced a short documentary called Waste to Wages. It is 7 minutes and it's eye-opening. It's an acclaimed film that was in the Nashville Film Festival last year. I'll go ahead and roll that and conclude my presentation.
Every year, billions of pounds of trash are buried in landfills across Tennessee.
Not in my backyard. That's what people living in Rutherford County are saying about yet another proposal to build more of the Middle Point landfill next to the one that's already there.
Before you can even see the Middle Point landfill, you can smell it.
With the population boom in Middle Tennessee, landfills are filling up fast.
Of all that waste, 75% could be recovered and put back into our economy. But today, Tennessee only recycles about 10% of our waste. We can solve this. There are industries right here in Tennessee that need those materials we are currently sending to our landfills.
Kaiser Aluminum is a semi-fabricated aluminum products company. We manufacture products for aerospace, packaging, general engineering, as well as automotive and markets. So currently what we're facing is 2/3 of our primary aluminum in the United States comes from Canada. On average, $800 million to $1 billion annually worth of aluminum beverage cans hitting the landfills. And because aluminum is infinitely recyclable, we can capture that material and bring it back into our facilities. It would certainly help alleviate a lot of the supply issues that we're dealing with, and we may be dealing with significantly into the future. And the only way to do that is through better state and federal policies.
The aluminum industry has an economic impact of $9 billion annually in Tennessee. Its impacts can be felt across the entire state. In Huntingdon, Grangus operates one of its 3 U.S. aluminum rolling facilities. Grangus is the largest employer in Carroll County with more than 500 employees.
And we're a global foil manufacturing facility. And customers put that in all kinds of applications, everything from HVAC to automotive to flexible packaging, even thinking about all the way down to a Capri Sun or a peanut butter lid. That is the aluminum that you see that comes from our facilities.
We could function almost on 100% recyclable if we can get it to fill our demand. It's really kind of traded like a commodity. It's not a fight, but it's a challenge to find an adequate continuous supply. Beverage cans, turkey basters or pie pans and stuff, that's a lot of aluminum, a good grade aluminum that we could use. It's a win all around. It's cheaper, it's less electricity, and it's less emissions than converting it from ore out of the ground.
The recycling he's talking about is taking place just east in Dixon, Tennessee, at Shapiro Metals.
We get probably 75 to 80% of the materials from Tennessee. We do aluminum, we do stainless, we do coppers, a lot of ferrous, cardboard, some plastics.
We'll put it on the line, run it up into the baler, it'll compact it, it'll come out in this form, then it'll go to an end user for melting.
One of those end users is Grangus in Huntingdon, which is how a circular economy works. The waste from one industry provides feedstock for another. Metals are not the only materials in high demand in Tennessee. Just up the road in Weakley County sits the largest ball clay deposit in the United States. 90% of all porcelain tile manufactured in the U.S. includes Tennessee ball clay. Tennessee clay is a key ingredient in the production of ceramic tiles and countertops. Up the road in Clarksville is one of North America's largest tile manufacturing facilities, Florum USA.
Porcelain tile is made primarily of sand, clay, and feldspar. The clay is West Tennessee ball clay. That's why we're here. That's why Tennessee is so popular in the clay industry. The sand, though, we could substitute in glass because it's chemically the same. So bottled glass would be a great source for us to have post-consumer content in our tile. I think it's important to understand the scale of the industry in Tennessee and the scale of industry here at Florum. We could take every bottle landfilled in Tennessee today and we would still have to buy glass.
From Crossville to Clarksville, thousands of Tennesseans are employed in our ceramic tile industry. Florum, the tile manufacturer, needs the glass, but currently we don't have the recycling infrastructure in place to capture that glass. Right down the road in Old Hickory, Recycle Services is trying to meet that demand.
Recycle Services located specifically to Tennessee because there's a great amount of glass that is not being recycled, and there's a huge demand for recycled glass. And the reason why recycled glass is so valuable is that when it's cleaned and processed appropriately, it's easier to melt and so is more efficient. You're not remining sand and limestone to create new glass products. And so there's many benefits to the environment and to our businesses.
So there's demand for our aluminum and our glass, but what about plastics? A straight shot down I-65 in Troy, Alabama is KW Plastics.
KW Plastics is headquartered in Troy, Alabama, and we are considered the world's largest plastics recycler. Companies like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Toyota, GM, they need post-consumer recycled material, and we would love to be able to supply them with that. We know that there is much more plastic that we could be getting from Tennessee, that we could be purchasing from communities in Tennessee. Not only would I love to buy more, I need to buy more. But without a system in place, without infrastructure in place, then it's getting lost. We literally are burying billions of dollars worth of plastic containers in our landfills. This really is economic development. It's about being a good steward of the resources that we have and maximizing what we already have.
We had to go outside of Tennessee to Columbus, Ohio to find a real-world example of the future of recycling. This $100 million facility processes and recycles over 250,000 tons of municipal solid waste per year. In order to bring this degree of investment to Tennessee, our state lawmakers are currently considering the Tennessee Waste to Jobs Act. This legislation will generate millions of dollars for recycling infrastructure, reduce our reliance on materials from foreign countries, create thousands of Tennessee jobs, and help solve our landfill crisis at no cost to Tennessee taxpayers. Tennessee is well positioned to become a regional economic powerhouse and a leader in recycling. Please support the Tennessee Waste to Jobs Act.
So as you know, in every crisis or every challenge, there's enormous opportunity. And we are at that crossroads right now. And that's why the work of this task force is so important. And we certainly want to be part of helping you forge those solutions. We certainly encourage exploring, taking a serious look at the extended producer responsibility or EPR policies that capture those materials, capture the economic value, put revenue from that into improving our recycling infrastructure and recycling education in Tennessee. We have not seen any better solution than EPR has been offered yet. So I certainly encourage you to take a look at that. And I also want to invite you to come to our next recycling roundup, April 11th. I'll send you an email. I have your email addresses. It's in Franklin at the Nissan North America headquarters, sponsored by Nissan. And we'd love to work with you side by side, unloading those cars and sending out those materials to the recycling center. So please come on down and work with us in April. We'd love to see more support for expanding recycling roundups and community events like it across Tennessee. That's low-hanging fruit opportunity, and to bring EPR policies to Tennessee. Those are our highest recommendations. And with that, I'll end my presentation and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have to the best of my ability.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Berry. Appreciate your presentation. Do any members of the task force here have questions for our presenter here? Yes, sir.
Jeffrey, thanks for the presentation. I'm Scott Thomas. You talk about EPR policies. I'm confused about that. What do you mean by that? Because that's not the same as state statutes. Help me understand.
Mm-hmm.
Whose policies are these?
The policies that have been adopted by 35 states in America have been written by those states. So the states have passed. These are statewide policies. They're not corporate policies. They're state level policies, and there is an incredible library of EPR policies, legislative templates, if you will, at the Product Stewardship Institute. And I'd be happy to send you their information on how those policies work, how effective they are, and where they've been adopted. I'd be glad to send you that information. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, that's helpful. It's still,
Okay.
I'm still confused by that because it was, to my understanding, only 6 or 7 states have actually passed statutes. And so I'm not sure, how are these policies implemented? How are they enforced? Are they voluntary policies?
So to a little more clarity on that, we have 2 more presenters that are going to be talking more about the policies specifically. The 6 or 7 states you mentioned have passed EPR policies that are specific to packaging. So if you look at the map of where those policies, the other states have passed EPR for batteries, for tires and mattresses and all those other materials. So that's where the 35 states come in.
I got you.
So, and 146 state level policies have been passed to support EPR for those specific materials.
I got you.
7 of those states are doing the packaging.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That helps.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Yes, sir. Mr. Giles.
Thank you for your presentation. Looking at the handout, it said that this cost savings yearly assumes a 40 to 50% household diversion rate. In your video, it said it was right now is about 10%. And having worked in a couple of different county governments in solid waste, I think you're right on the money with that 10% on a household level. So how is this going to influence the behavior change to go from a 10% to a 40, 50%? Are you assuming a mandate in place, fines for doing it wrong, those types of things?
Right, and that's where the question about mandates come in. And there are a few ways to answer that. So I'm an avid recycler. Now, a lot of counties already are hitting 25% diversion from the municipal solid waste. If you look at the TDEC data available from TDEC. So 10% is statewide average. A lot of counties are hitting 25%, which is a good progress, especially for the larger counties. 99.5% of the businesses in Tennessee will be exempt from any fees to pay into the fund. And I know the presentation coming, 2 presentations from mine, I think Maris Macelis will be talking more about how the policy what happens when the policy passes. It sets up a producer responsibility organization. There's a needs assessment to see what the current infrastructure is and where the needs to improve that infrastructure is. The companies, the 0.5% of businesses in Tennessee that are multinational corporations primarily will pay into a fund, and that's what the law does. It enables those fees to be charged, just like an HOA charges fees to its members as well. So there is precedent at a nonprofit level for a non-NGO, a non-governmental organization, to charge fees that are enforced. The increase in participation rates comes, the funds that are derived from those fees will pay for improved infrastructure and improved education about recycling. So there will be large-scale public education campaigns about why it's important to recycle, how easy it is, and how to do it right. So there's a lot of work, but those details will be formed after legislation is passed. A lot of those programs will be formed from the producer responsibility organization that's created from the legislation. So there are a lot of moving parts, and we could certainly talk more in depth about those. But I hope that gives at least a basic answer to your question.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just to follow up on the previous question, this intermediary organization, is this a nonprofit? Is it quasi-governmental? What kind of authority would it have?
It will be a nonprofit organization. It could be a brand new one, or there are already PROs, producer responsibility organizations, in place through the Circular Action Alliance. So it could be one that's adopted through that infrastructure, or it could be a brand new Tennessee-based. And those decisions will be made after legislation is passed. But it's a non-governmental agency. It's a nonprofit organization, essentially. That is, the members of that organization will be the producers of the products that the brands that are currently making the packaging materials. And just a little bit more, TDEC will have some oversight on what the PRO produces, the plan that it creates, and there will also be an advisory, like more of a citizen-based advisory oversight committee that will make sure there's accountability. Once it's set up.
All right, I'm interested to hear more. I think one of the things in the back of my mind is more layers of bureaucracy, and I think for this to be successful, we need to pull some layers that currently exist back. So just for food for thought.
Yeah, and the legislation that we've seen created for Tennessee, compared to what other states have done, that are the Tennessee Wasted Jobs Act is the best example we have. It's about a 30-page bill. It's not extensive bureaucracy being created. It's probably the simplest version of extended producer responsibility for packaging in the country. That's my opinion. But yeah, our policy experts could come in and talk with you and speak with anybody here. We can bring them into the next task force meeting to get a little bit more into at the granular level of how the legislation works. But some of our presenters here this morning as well know a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah.
So there'll be more information.
Representative Grills, your record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just you said in your presentation that this would be of no expense to the taxpayers. Where is the dollars going to be coming from?
The brands that currently support the Wasted Jobs Act specifically include Mars, Danone, Nestle, Unilever, IKEA. These are global brands, and they're the ones paying into the fund. And these policies exist around the world, so these brands are already being held to these sorts of policies. So their manufacturing practices are already aligned with these policies.
So these manufacturers are going to come up with these extra dollars, and these extra dollars are going to come from rising prices of their goods and services?
Well, so there's no example. So the existing policies that exist in the country and around the world, there's negligible increase to consumer prices. So because what they do, of course, they will have to pay into the fund, but just like any other, operating expenses of a business, yes, costs are included in the producing of the packaging. So over time, the way the legislation is designed to work, packaging is more efficient. Businesses are incentivized to innovate. And the packaging ends up being more recyclable and more sustainable in the long term. So that's why the legislation is very effective, because it incentivizes the businesses to innovate and create more responsible packaging, if you will, more recyclable packaging.
So would this, if this legislation were to be enacted, would this give in your view, would this give the businesses the opportunity to opt in or opt out, or would this be a mandate by the state once this legislation was enacted?
As it's currently written, the legislation exempts 99.5% of the businesses in Tennessee. So small businesses are exempt from this legislation. The threshold is set at $10 million of annual sales. So if a company is smaller than that, then they're not subject to this legislation. It's the multinational corporations, the big companies, the brands that will be paying those fees, which is 0.5% of the businesses.
If they're
operating.
if they're so willing to do this, and I very seriously doubt that they really are, why don't they just do it now voluntarily and just come up with their own nonprofit and implement some of these policies on their own if they think this is the way to go moving forward?
Well, I would love to ask that question of the companies themselves. I mean, companies are innovating, and if you can just
Sure.
look at Amazon packaging, they've reduced the amount of plastic that they put their products in, and they're going to paper recyclable packaging. So, yeah, a lot of companies do this on their own and innovate because their customers demand it. And so, to have the meaningful policy that really has teeth to provide the funding that we need in Tennessee to improve our recycling and to solve this crisis, there needs to be some law in place with some teeth to enforce those fees and make sure that that the companies are holding to it and in reducing their packaging over time. And it's not a flip a switch. Okay, we need you to produce new packaging tomorrow. It's like a 10-year time frame for businesses to be able to make those changes.
Okay, and
before the fees kick in, the higher fees.
And the nonprofit that you're talking about that would be created, who would have the oversight over that? You said TDEC would have some influence in it, but who would have the appointment authority? Who would have the regulatory authority to kind of hold them accountable and to find out who's going to be on the board and what those requirements would be?
The way the legislation is written, TDEC would have that authority.
And the appointments would come from the governor or TDEC? Or the
I would need to get back to you on that and look at the legislation.
Okay, it's not a trick question, just trying to get understanding. Okay,
yeah, I'm pretty sure it would be, I mean, the commissioner of TDEC would probably make those appointments, I'm guessing. But I'd have to get back to you.
That's not even relevant right now, but just curious what you were thinking. Okay, thank you for your question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for your presentation. I've seen this a couple of times already. And I know we have another presentation members coming up that will be more detailed regarding this. I've seen some of that presentation as well. I just want to remind the folks before we start getting too far into this and down the question list, and to help answer a question that was asked earlier, this presentation, if it is similar to what I've been reviewing for the last couple of years or hearing discussion about, while it has passed in 7 states, it has yet to be implemented in any of the states. And I know Tennessee's hesitancy to be the first guinea pig in anything, but of the 7 states, it's not been implemented in any of them. Some of them aren't even at the needs assessment process just yet. So we're not looking at a proposal that has been successful in any of the states in Tennessee. And I just want everybody to know that as we go in asking questions regarding this program.
Any other questions for Mr. Berry? Appreciate your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So dovetailing on Ms. Barrett's comments, I do believe we're going to keep talking a little bit about the Tennessee Waste to Jobs Act. So if our next 2 folks will come up. Maris, if you'll introduce yourself and.
Yes, of course. I got it. Thank you. Got yours on. Just when you're ready, you're going to push a button and bring it to your phone. Hello. Good morning. It is an absolute honor to be here. Thank you, Chairman Todd and Chairman Reeves, for having us. My name is Maris Macelis, And normally, I'm wearing a Tennessee Environmental Council hat. I'm the Director of Communications and Community Impact, but today I will be presenting as a volunteer for the Tennessee Waste to Jobs Coalition. And I'll have to give Jeff props for answering those questions as best as he could, because I'm going to be answering quite a bit of those questions, and the presentation after me will be also solidifying a lot of those points. So with that, I will also introduce Ms. Roxy Sharif. She's going to be talking a little later in the presentation. I am here to highlight a responsible economic opportunity for Tennessee that at no cost to taxpayers will create jobs, revenue, support local industry, reduce our reliance on foreign materials, and most importantly, help solve the landfill crisis. Because let's face it, every day we're talking about a landfill crisis. And actually, this is an indicator of success. Everyone wants to move to Tennessee. And with more people, there's more waste. 20 years ago, do you remember when you actually went to the store to buy something and you brought it home? Today, a few clicks and a product can land on your doorstep in just 24 hours. But when you order that shampoo, you didn't buy the packaging, you didn't buy the oversized box or the unnecessary bubble wrap or even the bottle. You just want to wash your hair. So consumers have no choice in this matter. They have no control. And all that packaging is coming whether we want it or not, and we're throwing it away. And it goes into a nice big hole and is decomposing for however many years. There's almost 1 million tons of packaging going to our landfills every year. But what we know now is that 75% of that is recoverable. A lot of us talk about how countries are doing it better than us. It's because they have packaging extended producer responsibility, or EPR. They share the responsibility for the full life cycle of products or packaging with producers that put it on the market, and it works. Take Italy, for example. Mrs. Barrett, I heard an excellent interview with you and Mr. Harmon, that you were very impressed with Italian culture, the waste culture there. And that wasn't by accident. Italy has had a packaging EPR policy for decades. They recover more than 70% of their packaging waste and send less than 10% to landfill. They have the most robust recovery system in all of Europe, and it's driven by packaging EPR. The key point here is that Italians are not footing the bill. Cities and counties are not scrambling to raise property taxes, and recycling education is funded. Infrastructure is stable, and local governments are saving their money and spending it on things that they need, like public education or law enforcement. EPR has been going on in the United States, as Jeffrey Berry has stated before, for decades. And the Product Stored Institute helped pass over 146 EPR laws in 35 states. Looking at Tennessee, we see there's no industry funding or funding for recycling infrastructure or education. And there's none of the material security there. The reality is that 1/3 of the world is operating with packaging EPR, and Tennesseans are paying for it when they buy a packaged good. The timing could not be more important with tariff volatility and global supply chain uncertainty. Aluminum alone is up 13% year over year. And Tennessee manufacturers need reliable domestic feedstock. I want to emphasize the education piece because I know that's very important to this task force. Packaging EPR is the only funding mechanism that brings sustained, dedicated dollars for recycling education at scale. Not grants, not one-time appropriations, not unfunded mandates on cities or counties. EPR recycling education is baked into the system year after year, which is why countries like Italy see very high participation and such clean material streams. I also do want to point out, Oregon actually has implemented its EPR funding as of last year, July, and $80 million are being spent on expanding recycling to every single Oregonian in the state. 150,000 new recycling bins, 100 new trucks. There's money spent for contamination programs and recycling education. California is actually very close behind them. We spent, oh, I'm sorry, missed one. The economic opportunity is Tennessee Waste to Jobs, as you've heard. This is a legislation to bring EPR to Tennessee. This bill is designed for Tennessee. It's a business-led solution with producers, brands, and service providers designing the plan from the very beginning, prioritizing industry needs over prescriptive government mandates. This bill is permissive. Counties under 200,000 in population can opt in. This means we'll focus on the larger cities that generate more waste, but of course we want them to opt in. We also raised the participation threshold from 2 million to 10 million. After meeting with industry leaders and trade groups such as the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, the 10 million threshold aligns with the U.S. Small Business Administration's definition of small businesses. And today, in Tennessee, 99.5% of businesses would not be impacted by Tennessee Waste to Jobs. This isn't a hit on small business. Instead, it asks large multinational producers to help fund the systems that their packaging requires. We spent 2 years meeting with those brands and industry. We met with county and city mayors, key stakeholders, and special interest groups to craft a bill that's right for Tennessee business and supports recycling in Tennessee. That's why they support this legislation. They want a level playing field, they want consistency, and they want their packaging back. Over 3,000 international brands, over a dozen mayors, and from cities across the state, solid waste directors, and thousands of Tennesseans support Tennessee Waste to Jobs Act. We're still getting support letters in today, with one from Mayor David Quick from Dyer County just this week. You're going to hear a little later in the agenda that our bill aligns completely with the American Legislative Exchange Council's model recycling resolution because it's pro-business, fiscally responsible, and will bring hundreds of millions of dollars to our state from international brands at no cost to taxpayers, municipalities, or counties. This is going to fund the infrastructure and education that Tennessee needs. So when EPR legislation is passed, one of the first things that happens is there's a needs assessment. And that's conducted to determine how much is this recycling improvements going to cost. And that's all based on some performance goals that they set. So I'd love to introduce Ms. Roxy Sharif, who is leading an Owen MBA student group to a research study, a county level recycling cost benefits analysis.
There you go. Hello. Thank you, everybody. Get you set up. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. My name is Roxy Sharif. Just really excited to have this opportunity to present to you all a little bit about the research work that I'm doing with a small team, working, as Maris mentioned, alongside MBA students from Vanderbilt, Tennessee solid waste directors, and industry contributors who have conducted similar infrastructure assessments in other states. In particular, I want to thank Eunomia, HDR, and the Recycling Partnership for their published work and continued support of our study. And while local students and I share the common motivation, yes, we are concerned about the growing landfill crisis, but more importantly, we do believe in building a stronger, more resilient material recovery system that supports our local economy. As sustainable business professionals, we believe the solution is not simply about waste reduction, it's about the development of a more circular system where materials can be recovered, processed, and sold back to responsible end markets. Our analysis is focusing on 11 county-owned MRFs, material recovery facilities, many of which are already serving surrounding counties. This existing hub and spoke model has been identified by TDEC as an effective strategy to expand recycling access and improve waste diversion across Tennessee more than a decade ago. We're looking only at residential recycling services and commonly recovered materials, reflecting systems that Tennesseans already recognize and use. Importantly, we see this not as a theoretical exercise because these facilities are operating today. Our aim is to evaluate how modest targeted investments could improve these county-owned facilities, expanding service coverage for residents, and increasing material supply to industry. Our findings draw from publicly available data, county-specific waste characterization reports, as well as interviews with solid waste directors and modeled forecasts using industry-accepted benchmarks and proxy data where gaps exist. Okay. Our deliverable, which we expect to complete next month, will be a report outlining the expected economic impacts of these investments in specific MRF operations, as well as provide ranges and directional insight that will allow state-level stakeholders to understand the scale and feasibility and potential return of these investments. Again, our aim is not just to inform stakeholders on how to lower exposure to environmental and social risks of solid waste today, or to suggest we build new systems, but to strengthen existing county-owned facilities and recycling and recovery operations that help Tennesseans and our local economy. We are focused on a few categories in terms of economic benefits, while also reviewing capital needs alongside ongoing operating costs. We do intend to provide key metrics, normalized metrics that you may be familiar with, such as cost per ton and cost per household, which does include the cost to educate. A key component of what we've seen is required to improve recycling rates and diversion in Tennessee. In sum, we believe, and our preliminary findings suggest, that Tennessee is really fertile ground for modernizing and improving county-owned recycling and recovery network, the hub and spoke model you see here. With dedicated funding to expand operations, there's clear opportunity to create both public and private jobs, reduce our landfill dependence, and service more residents while increasing diversion rates. We see an EPR program like Waste to Jobs as an opportunity to support a business solution through dedicated reinvestment of those county operations. Thank you.
I'm really excited to know about that report, and hopefully they will be able to see it when you're finished. So in conclusion, the hard truth is this: no meaningful change will happen without packaging extended producer responsibility. There is no alternative funding source that comes anywhere close to the hundreds of millions of dollars that this will bring into Tennessee for the systems change we need and for the recycling infrastructure and education. We can continue doing what we know and talk about small and insubstantial gains in recycling and waste management. We can stay 48th, or we can be the best in America by 2050. We can choose a proven, conservative, market-based solution that saves taxpayers and local governments money and strengthen our economy. Thank you all. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Any questions for our panelists here? Mr. Thomas.
Thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. Everybody on this task force is very interested in encouraging recycling, and so we're interested in any avenues that might accomplish that. Following up on a previous question, you tell me if you're the right parties or whether somebody else can. Tell me about these, is it PROs?
The producer responsibility organizations.
Yeah, why is there a need to have a new separate structure instead of using TDEC, for instance, or some existing structure? What's the thought behind that? And why?
Of course. So, and this actually would align perfectly with, I think, another couple questions about how TDEC is involved or how the government is involved at all. The government oversees, and that would be TDEC in this case. So the bill passes. Okay, TDEC would initiate, get together, and set some rulemaking, and they would select a producer responsibility organization. Right now in the United States, there is one. It's called the Circular Action Alliance, but actually our bill allows multiple pros. So if another one comes along and thinks that they should do it better than the other for a specific material, they can apply. After TDEC selects a pro and assigns the advisory board of stakeholders, which in the bill there's a detailed list of a very diverse list of people that should be present there. But TDEC would assign that advisory board. Then they conduct a needs assessment. This would be the pro and TDEC, and the advisory board is there for recommendations. TDEC ultimately approves all plans, but they work together. And the pro is made up of these multi-international brands. These are the producers that are already formed in this organization together. And this is in the 7 previous states for the packaging EPR specifically. As we know, there's more that we can do for EPR, more products. They develop a plan and they implement the plan. And that's what the pro is there to do. The industry knows the industry the best. And that is why our bill is different than the other states that have passed it previously. This is not government coming down and saying you have to do X, Y, and Z. This is industry creating what works for them with oversight and stakeholder input. And these are multinational brands that in 30% of the world are already operating under packaging EPR. This isn't new to them. So they want this, absolutely want this. That's why they want this. Because there's too much going on outside of that. And they already had to change their standards. They already had to adjust for this. So after, and to just more clarification, TDEC approves the plan, has the advisory board recommend. Counties can opt in, right? Service providers start to get reimbursed for infrastructure and their operations. So the pro collects the fees and disseminates the fees. This does not go into the general state fund. Government does not touch this. But what they do get to do is now freed up tax monies can be used for other things. Public education, roads, law enforcement, fire departments. There's more money in the bank in the general fund. After the plan is made and they come up with the performance goals, and the pro would be collecting that money and start to implement that money, which is what we're seeing in Oregon now. They're receiving the funds and they're getting that new infrastructure and they're getting what we need desperately. Does that clarify?
Yeah, it does.
If I can piggyback a little bit too. So, and I think, the advantage and really the role too of the pro is, they're sort of kind of a centralized body that actually tracks data from the producers to understand exactly the impacts and, pricing, and that's how they're setting it. And they do inform TDEC on kind of how to set fees, along with an advisory board as well, which the bill does outline who is on the advisory board, which is a range of stakeholders that do comprise industry and other stakeholders.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how much money are we talking about that would be raised for a PRO in Tennessee to disperse?
So the pro, which is already existent and has its own funds, its own collected funds from previous states, what they're doing right now, they have a bank. And what happens is this bill actually has a $0 fiscal note because within 6 months of the beginning, TDEC is reimbursed by the pro. And that's the upfront capital that the pro provides. They already have a bank. And when they start this process, anything that is done, the pro will be paying back. And I'm sorry, did I miss? The question was, where's the money?
I'm just wondering how much money you anticipate this pro would be dispersing in Tennessee for infrastructure or whatever.
Well, based off of other states, there's an estimate regarding population and such, and there are some numbers there, an estimated 300 to 400 million a year. And that's just, we know it's in the hundreds of millions. We do know that.
Okay, thank you.
And I think significant too for the county operations is whatever improvements or expansions they need are going to be reimbursed such that they won't lose money and they even have the opportunity to make money from the material that is recovered and sold to end markets. So the pro would for sure within this framework of this bill in particular ensure that they aren't losing money from those recycling efforts. And the benefit, right, the ancillary benefit other than kind of the money they could make in the market is serving Tennesseans and advancing service of recycling to different counties.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Chairman. So how much of our current waste stream with this program really address? So we're talking about 10%, 12% recycling rates. What's our maximum potential that this would help us achieve?
I think that's very much decided after the needs assessment. They have to do extensive research on all of that. So I'm not able to answer that because that 50, well, I think in that page, if you all have the savings document there, ideally 40 to 50%, ideally.
Okay,
We're going to shoot.
Thank you. I was just curious. I mean, obviously we're trying to address solid waste as a whole, and I'm just trying to figure out how much of this is addressed in this proposal. So.
As much as we can.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett.
Thank you for the clarification regarding Oregon. One thing I do want to ask, your pro is the CAA, the circular?
Yes.
And they've been in operation for just a little over 3 years now.
I'm not actually positive of that.
It appears they began and were formed in 2022. So we're talking about a pro that's 3 years old that has yet to oversee any state that's implemented this. And I know you indicated Oregon had implemented, but within 30 days, a lawsuit was filed by the National Association of Wholesalers and Distributors, and the litigation is currently ongoing. The claims in the lawsuit are that that has unconstitutionality issues, economic freedom and due process, and impact on the wholesale distribution industry. How is that lawsuit affecting how things are going in Oregon?
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that specific unconstitutionality is regarding the single pro as a monopoly. And that's why this lawsuit is taking place. So that's why we included that multiple pros would be able to apply in the state of Tennessee, so that we don't run into that issue, and that it may encourage and incentivize other pros to come forward.
Again, you have an active lawsuit. How is that affecting implementation? And that was just one of the items, key concerns listed in the litigation that is now ongoing.
I believe it hasn't had much to my knowledge, because they're getting the money, and it's ongoing. The state is getting the money to do what they need to do. And I'm not sure how the lawsuit doesn't seem to be affecting the process. As it's very new and there are going to be challenges, that's why we're trying to make this bill as lean and flexible as possible, so that industry can really have a seat at the table from the very beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you both for your presentation. Roxy, so you're working with your colleague MBAs to put together a white paper, which
Yes.
you'll share with us?
Yes, absolutely, definitely. So
I think that's great. And I think think tanks, groups of people thinking about this are useful from the outside looking in and from the inside looking out. On the litigation note, has there been any discussion about Commerce Clause or interstate commerce or challenges to that constitutional notion? Do you know?
I'm not positive, but maybe that might be able, there's another presentation after me that might be able to.
Because it feels to me like when a state starts telling a larger population of commerce what to do, that's an issue. The other thing I wanted to point out, and I'd love to see in your white paper, the way you've described this, we've got like an upside down triangle. So at the point of that upside down triangle, you have industry, which is a small aggregation compared to consumers who have to change culture and behavior in order to make this work. Because that small bottom of the triangle is dispersing all of this recyclable material to exponentially more people at the household level, house by house, street by street.
Yes.
So when you think about it, let me ask you this, has your group thought about it in terms of culture and behavior?
yes, it's definitely something we're thinking about and discussing with stakeholders in terms of, how to build the awareness, not just build the awareness of, the value that recycling has for society and economic markets, but how to reach those consumers to understand the systems and how they can recycle today. So there's definitely, just to answer your question, absolutely, we see education as a huge part of what would be needed, not just the investment in the MRFs and the hub and spoke model, but really changing, people's perception of recycling, both in terms of believing whether it's, a valid cause and, also just understanding what can and cannot be recycled. So part of our research is looking at, different access points, whether it's curbside versus drop off. And certainly we see a lot of value in, convenience centers or drop-off centers, which do create more jobs and actually ensure that contamination rates are lower. So there's a few pieces there, but we're definitely thinking about it.
So I don't want you to answer this question. I just want you to take it back with you.
Please.
There's a lot of conversation right now about grocery sales tax in our state and possible relief for grocery sales tax. What percentage of the recyclable material would be related to food products?
Again, I think that really is what the needs assessment is for, is to really dive in to those numbers and see what we're working with.
Give me a.
I would love to find that information for you with my team, and we can have a meeting on that. I don't have that.
And the question is how much, what stake or percentage of the potentially recovered recyclable material would come from the food industry?
Well, but that's the packaging that a household uses and then chooses either to put in the green can, it goes to a landfill, which is what the behavior we're trying to shift, so that it goes in the blue can and gets recycled.
I also want to point out there's actually something very special about extended producer responsibility. Not only does it share the responsibility of the full life cycle, but as this proceeds, industry is encouraged to innovate with these different packaging. That we get years ago, it was very simple packaging. Now there's there's stuff being made that we don't know what to do with, especially around food. And I think I myself as a consumer go to the grocery store and I'm extremely overwhelmed at what I'm buying because I have no control over what it is that I'm buying. So one thing that's very special is that producers actually will receive a reward in this fee system for more recyclable products, less volume, less material. And they're rewarded for that. And we do include our non-recyclable materials in this process as well, but they would be paying more.
So I couldn't have asked for a better segue, because if you take the other side of that coin, how do you reward the consumer for recycling? And if there's a way to connect a relief on sales tax on groceries with the behavior that favors recycling, then maybe at the household level, people feel like they're getting something for their effort.
I think that's a great plan.
Well,
So
direct
just for
return
the
systems.
purpose of your
direct
group.
return systems are a good solution for that, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. So to kind of keep things moving along,
Sure.
I think I appreciate your comments today very
Thank
much,
you.
both of you, and we'll keep going. So
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
I believe, is it Alec here next? Yeah.
May I come up here? Is that okay?
Sure. So introduce yourself and take a few minutes.
All right, how's that? Clear? All right.
Great.
All right, Chairman Reeves, Chairman Todd, and members of the task force. My name is Jake Moravito, and I serve as Senior Director of Policy at the American Legislative Exchange Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before your committee today. And I did just want to make one clarifying statement from some of the previous presenters. ALEC has not taken a formal position or endorsed the legislation that was discussed previously. We are a nonprofit entity, and I'm here to share more about our nonpartisan education, research, and analysis on this topic. So just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, ALEC has been working on matters of recycling policy and solid waste management, as well as other efforts of our members across all 50 states to develop sound environmental policy rooted in market incentives and industry partnerships to achieve both a robust economy and the conservation of our nation's precious natural resources and agricultural land. In my capacity as Senior Policy Director, I also serve as Director of ALEC's Energy, Environment, and Agriculture Task Force, which consists of legislative leaders, policy experts from across the country committed to developing pragmatic and evidence-based model policy solutions across our EEA jurisdiction. And that includes energy affordability and reliability issues, public lands policy and private property rights, chemical regulation, and ensuring we all have clean air to breathe and fresh water to drink, and much more. I hope you find this testimony valuable as Tennessee considers how to approach some of these emerging challenges facing not only everyday Tennesseans, but also the many small and medium-sized businesses that depend on healthy, dependable energy, environment, and agriculture to survive and thrive. ALEC's foundational principles of limited government, free markets, and federalism are crucial to developing effective solid waste policy in Tennessee, solving landfill capacity, strengthening Tennessee's solid waste and recycling infrastructure for the future, all while avoiding unintended consequences for consumers and businesses. And that brings me to the purpose of this task force and today's meeting to address the urgent solid waste concerns facing the state of Tennessee. First, I'll explain more about ALEC's longstanding values on solid waste and recycling policy and our support for a market-oriented regulatory approach driven by incentives and partnership with industry instead of top-down government restrictions, prohibitions, or new taxes. I will then dive deeper into ALEC's model resolution in support of recycling, which was mentioned earlier, which acknowledges the importance of sustainable product manufacturing and circularity of materials from both an environmental health and national security lens, while also ensuring that policy solutions are transparent, financially and environmentally sustainable, and grounded in tangible outcomes and measurable results, with the private sector playing a leading role. Finally, I will provide a snapshot of the state regulatory landscape as many jurisdictions work to implement new extended producer responsibility laws for the paper and packaging industries, and some lessons learned that Tennessee should keep in mind. I should note that recycling and solid waste management are not new to the ALEC community. Since at least 1995, ALEC members have coalesced around common principles to guide state recycling policy, particularly on source reduction. ALEC's model resolution on packaging and the municipal solid waste stream acknowledges that it was private sector innovation, market incentives, and public-private partnerships that helped achieve effective, integrated solid waste management programs across the country through the use of minimal packaging materials. Inefficient government prohibitions, restrictions, or new taxes on consumer packaging and solid waste only create barriers that limit industry's ability to meet market demands. Leading companies are already embracing what is often referred to as the circular economy, encouraging the reuse and recycling of materials to extend the life cycle of products, reduce the need for new resource extraction, and keep perfectly good products out of the landfill. In the technology sector, companies like Apple, Lenovo, LG, and Samsung are responding to strong signals from consumers and shareholders who recognize that sustainable practices and repurposing consumer products and packaging materials just makes economic sense. Fast forward to today. Some states are considering a regulatory tool called Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, to address recycling and solid waste concerns in the paper and packaging sectors. While EPR laws have already been implemented in some sectors, such as consumer electronics, batteries, and paint, the concept is now being tested in a handful of states in the paper, consumer, and commercial packaging industries. Now, what exactly is EPR, and why is it considered a possible solution to address solid waste? In short, extended producer responsibility programs, as the name implies, seek to hold manufacturers and producers more responsible for the end of life of their products and packaging across the supply chain. By shifting the cost and operational burden of recycling from municipalities and government entities to the product manufacturers themselves, proponents of EPR believe the program will incentivize producers to minimize their packaging while adequately protecting expensive consumer goods, increasing recycling rates, promoting sustainable production, and easing pressure on landfills. However, I will caution that not all packaging EPR laws are created equal. As I mentioned earlier, ALEC members developed a model resolution in support of recycling in December 2024 that contains key principles and best practices for states considering EPR targeting the packaging industry. First and foremost, packaging EPR programs should be a collaboration between the packaging industry and government, not driven by bans, mandates, or excessive regulation. ALEC recommends that EPR should not be administered by the Department of Environment or another government agency, but should instead be managed by a producer-led producer responsibility organization, or PRO. As states select a PRO to regulate or to implement EPR, all affected industry stakeholders and producers that EPR laws would regulate must be fairly represented at the table. To date, the majority of states undergoing implementation of EPR have selected one nonprofit organization to serve as their PRO, the Circular Action Alliance, or CAA, which states that they are the only organization approved to implement US EPR laws for paper and packaging. One of the PRO's primary responsibilities is to collect producer fees from manufacturers and reinvest them in strengthening domestic recycling infrastructure. However, ALEC cautions that under no circumstances should these funds be diverted to general state funds or otherwise reallocated to other projects not related to EPR investments. EPR programs must be transparent and are not meant to be a piggy bank. And such a move could erode trust and participation in the program among producers and consumers. Next, EPR programs should make recycling convenient and simple for consumers to use, complement and optimize existing recycling efforts, and minimize financial burdens on both the manufacturers and consumers. Affordability should be a top priority, and states should be wary of any EPR proposals that would directly cause unreasonable price increases on the essential products and consumer brands that Tennessee families and businesses consume on a daily basis. Instead of rushing into a full-fledged EPR program right off the bat, states may consider beginning with a needs assessment of the state's recycling system to understand the ramifications of implementing such a program. And as some packaging EPR programs like Oregon's begin to go online, state legislators and regulators should pay close attention to how implementation is faring, learn from their successes, and avoid repeating the mistakes of those who came before. Choosing smaller bites at the apple could be a prudent decision for states like Tennessee to begin. Unlike California, which has had some setbacks that caused implementation to move in fits and starts. Finally, EPR programs should be grounded in tangible, measurable environmental outcomes, reducing packaging waste and minimizing environmental harm. Aligning state EPR programs in this way will help achieve both economic and ecological resilience while maintaining affordability and accessibility for consumers. Before I close, I will quickly provide a snapshot of the current state legislative landscape on packaging EPR. As of January 2026, 7 states have enacted new packaging EPR legislation, and those are California, Colorado, Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington State. Oregon's EPR took effect beginning last July, while requirements in other states like Colorado and Maine will begin to phase in as early as this year. Meanwhile, California's packaging EPR program, I believe, will kick off in 2027, but not fully phase in until 2032. Programs in Minnesota and Washington State are still far away from full implementation in 2029 or 2030. As the task force considers solutions to address the pressing solid waste and recycling needs of your constituents, I encourage you to keep in mind that collaboration and partnership among state government, counties, and the private sector will be critical to getting this right. Tennessee can learn in real time to see whether EPR programs in states like Oregon are living up to the promise of reducing packaging pollution and landfill excess without burdening businesses or raising prices for consumers. Buy-in from consumers and industry will be critical for the success of any recycling initiative or solid waste management reform. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Morbido. Appreciate that. Questions? Chairman Todd.
Thanks, Chairman Reeves. Appreciate you coming all this way to help with this topic. And I just wanted to ask a couple of clarifying questions. So I think I understood you to say that ALEC has not passed any model policy. ALEC members have not passed any model policy advocating for EPR to this point?
That is correct. The resolution in support of recycling it's essentially a starting point with some principles that legislators should keep in mind should they choose to develop an EPR program, but it's not an endorsement or a ratification of EPR itself or a specific EPR statute.
Okay, that kind of gets to the second question I had as well, is because when you mentioned some of the principles, you're just saying if you implement an EPR type program, these are the things that you should include. Is that correct?
I think that's an accurate way. And it's something that I've heard from stakeholders across both industry and civil society and legislators across the country. You know, they see this possibility of a patchwork of different EPR laws. And what you really don't want to have is have conflicting laws. You know, maybe if Tennessee were to adopt a law that conflicts with Oregon, conflicts with California, that absolutely could be a burden on businesses and necessarily raise prices if all of a sudden compliance spirals out of control. So ideally, you would have a pro that is driven by industry, not by government, that can then address the concerns, help the industry stakeholders meet their sustainability goals while minimizing consumer impacts.
The last question I have for you, just because you have private sector members, a lot of companies that participate in this process as well, have you ever gotten any feedback from any of from the business community that any of this additional cost, whether it's a fee, whether it's a tax, whether it's just any cost, that they're not going to pass that on to the consumers at some point in time?
I mean, it's a legitimate concern. I think one of the previous task force members mentioned this in a question, as far as there's a lot of unknowns because a lot of this has not yet been fully implemented or phased in Oregon's is underway, but it sounds like there might be some litigation that's maybe impeding some of that. So I think many states are kind of in wait and see mode. You know, they want to see how this plays out in the states that have already passed it. And I think industry could be open to this type of thing, but they again would like some harmony across states, at least around some of these basic frameworks. So that way you don't have to have Tennessee specific packaging and California specific packaging that could really increase the burden of compliance.
Any other questions from Mr. Thomas?
Again, thank you for your presentation. Sounds like you've done a lot of research on a lot of things, but including these types of situations. And it's a little bit of a mystery to me how a PRO decides how and what to charge producers on fees. Is it based on the volume that they sell in the state? Is there a structure to that?
That's an excellent point, and that's why one of Alec's principles is that the pros should be transparent in how those decisions are made. For instance, one of the risks of a state like California is I believe it's either in their rulemaking or in their statute, require that the PRO remit a certain amount of money to be dispersed into some fund. And then the risk that groups like Alec see is, could that fund be misused or redirected away from EPR projects? So, you know, if the pro again, as a body consisting of industry and self-governed by industry with oversight from your environmental department, they would essentially know what's best. And, you know, they can sort among themselves the dues structure, but that absolutely should be transparent.
Yeah, and again, I understand the transparency, but it's still a little confusing to me because it sounds like a potential clash between transparency and business, business privacy. Not the producers. I would suspect might be a little bit sensitive about sharing the information about their sales in particular regions in a situation where their competitors are also participating in that process. So it's just a little confusing.
No, that is an interesting point. And several states, they do have their laws in such a way that multiple pros could exist at one time. So that could be good, healthy competition. You know, if producers are finding that one pro is not delivering to their expectations or overcharging them, there is room for another pro to come in and essentially satisfy the requirements of the producers under law through a different organization. So that might be something Tennessee may want to consider if that's a concern.
Sure. And I also have a healthy skepticism about the fees that they pay not affecting products in my experience, every cost that produces a product in one way or another gets passed along to the bottom line of the sale of that. And I just wonder if there could be a concern that products in Tennessee might cost more than right across the state line and result in people going across the line to shop.
No, it's a fair concern, and that is certainly why I and Alex suggest not that should Tennessee consider this, look at what the other states are doing, listen to the industry partners who are saying that if these regulations are wildly diverging, you could have that type of situation. And you're already starting to see that in some of the technology regulation, where data privacy laws might be different in Virginia, but over the border in Maryland, they're different. And then in DC, there's different rules. So I feel like could be exacerbated even more with recycling and physical products.
Yeah, it just sounds like, based on what I've heard, is that some national effort for symmetry needs to be considered. So, because if every state's doing something different, it could.
And that is why forums like ALEC are helpful. Again, as an organization convening state elected officials and local county commissioners and private sector partners, we came together in December 2024, and these are the principles that we came up with. So hopefully they're valuable to the task force and to the Tennessee legislature. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Members, anyone? Mr. Mallon.
It's just very quickly, same question as to the last group. Any conversation about Commerce Clause, about states interfering with interstate commerce?
I don't believe that is addressed in our resolution specifically.
Okay. And then just the only other thing is, as Thoreau said, simplify, simplify, simplify. If this is a patchwork of 50 different regulatory schemes, then it's going to be very disruptive and inefficient.
Absolutely. And another point I just wanted to highlight in that same vein is that point about all relevant stakeholders being at the table to make these decisions within the PRO, or again, part of this advisory board. You have a variety of different stakeholders that would be regulated by this law. You have your food producers and manufacturers. You have consumer electronics companies, that package things like laptops or phones. And a lot of it, I think this point was made earlier, a lot of those companies, they would like that material back. Apple doesn't want perfectly good iPhones going into the landfill. If they can reclaim even a portion of that and repurpose it, they welcome that. Or so, I don't know if any of you have this way. I think I've had about 6 smartphones over the course of my life. I still have the box and in many cases the phone from all of those, and they're just sitting in a closet. It's like maybe there's a way, if that's valuable, they can, that's something that the PRO can do is harp on consumer education, maybe instilling this ethos of returning products back to either the developer themselves. But that's something that the PRO can decide in collaboration with the government and with the local communities.
Thank you. Anyone else on the task force have comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Morbido. Appreciate you. So members, we're going to try to do one more presentation before lunch. Mayor Mason, you ready to go? Tell us about the good work you're doing in Smith County. If you'd introduce yourself and the gentleman with you there and take a few minutes.
All right. First of all, thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. My name is Jeff Mason, and I am the county mayor of Smith County, Tennessee, and I'm also the legal owner of the Smith County landfill. First, and let me say this, we're not here to advocate for any EPRs or PROs or advocate for or against. That's not what we came for. So just want to get that out of the way first. First and foremost, thank you to Chairman Todd and Chairman Reeves for the opportunity to be here and speak with you today. I also want to thank the members of this task force for taking on the issue of solid waste disposal and recycling. This is not an abstract policy discussion. It's a very real day-to-day challenge for every mayor and county executive across this state. The fact that you are giving this serious attention and hearing directly from those who operate landfills and solid waste system is both encouraging and appreciated. We didn't come today with a large PowerPoint presentation. That's just not what we do. What we're bringing today is our experience in running a county-owned landfill, and I have brought my solid waste and landfill director, Mr. Johnny Lee. Johnny's been with Smith County Landfill for many years. He started as a service technician and has worked every job in that landfill all the way up to being the director. He became director in 2018, shortly before I started my first term. He understands landfill operations from the ground up, not from a textbook or a boardroom. I often say that if every landfill in Tennessee had a Johnny Lee, they'd be in a much better spot. I've often said jokingly, but seriously also, that if he ever leaves, I'm resigning as well. Today, we want to briefly share with you some of the wins we've had at Smith County, but I also want to talk about, and I want to be honest about the struggles and the pressures we face, many of which are not unique to Smith County. My hope is that our experience can help inform this task force as you work forward toward a long-term, realistic solutions for solid waste management across Tennessee. The Smith County landfill started in the late 80s when C.E. Hackett, our county executive at the time, bought some land and started a landfill. And that's where we stand today. Now, some of what the struggles that have made it difficult for us, and we want to be very clear about the challenges we face because we know that Smith County is not alone in these struggles. One of the issues was a lack of planning before 2018 when we got there. A lack of a long-term plan in the years before put Smith County behind day one. Landfills require decades of foresight And once you fall behind, catching up is expensive and stressful. Ask us how we know. Lengthy regulatory timelines are another struggle. The regulatory process for permitting new landfills is long and complex. Even when everyone is working in good faith, the timelines can make it extremely difficult for counties and landfills to stay ahead of disposal needs. Engineering challenges. For the first 4 or 5 years, we struggled to find a competent engineering partner who understood not just the regulations, but also the realities of operating a county-owned landfill. Equipment and government bidding. Equipment failures are inevitable in landfill operations. However, the government bidding process often slows down replacements and repairs, creating operational inefficiencies and added costs. And if I could get on a soapbox for a minute, we'd talk about, and you guys may not be able to do anything, but we'd talk about DEF systems on landfill construction and farm equipment. But that's for a different day. And if you want to talk to it, we'll meet you outside and discuss that. Legacy overfill issues. One of the biggest current challenges we face right now, and it's faced across this state, that is overfill that was placed before and has not been addressed in the past. TDEC is now requiring us to correct those issues within the next 2 years, which adds financial and operational pressure, and it is something we must and we will deal with. Let's talk about some of the wins. Despite those struggles, Smith County also has had real measurable success. Cell construction and financial discipline. We have made cell building a priority, and we have done so in a financially responsible way. Up until this past year, when I came into office, Smith County had borrowed $2.8 million, and we've built well over $10 million worth of sales in the last 7 years out of just revenues that we make at the landfill in cash. Now, we did issue a $15 million bond this past year to get us back to that foresight and planning, is to get us ahead. And importantly, no Smith County tax dollars have been needed to run the Smith County landfill. We do that off of tipping fees from private and other government counties. Public and private partnerships. We have built strong public-private partnerships that help stabilize our operations, spread the risk, and keep tipping fees competitive and help us with services that we provide to our citizens. We do have new engineering partners. We now have engineering partners who understand our goals, our timeline, and the importance of keeping Smith County ahead, not just compliant. We've had improved coordination with TDEC. While I'll speak more candidly about this later, I do want to recognize that TDEC's central office has stepped in at key moments to help us expedite sale approvals, allowing us to move forward when time truly mattered. Let's talk about our future, where we're heading. Looking forward, Smith County is in a much stronger position than we were just a few years ago. We own approximately 450 acres. One of the benefits of Smith County Landfill is we're out of mind, out of sight. We're kind of hidden by some hills and some areas. There's only one, I would say, major thoroughfare that can see us, and so that's a good thing. We're not right on a major highway, and that helps us. Through working with Johnny, we know of at least right now, it's more, but right now we have at least identified 80 additional acres that we can and believe will be permitted within the next 5 years, assuming all goes well. And if we manage the landfill properly and continue to build sales the right way, we have capacity for at minimum 20 more years, possibly more if we do it the right way. Right now, we're in the process of building a 10-acre sale. Phase 1, we hope to be complete early to late spring. We have a 9-acre sale ready to be permitted right behind it. We recently renegotiated most of our contracts for higher tipping fees, strengthening the landfill's position. And we are in the early stages of negotiating with one of our big customers to get that done. Here's what Johnny Lee and I believe, and Smith County believes, needs to happen next. To remain viable and responsible, Smith County must do several things over the next 5 years. We've got to begin the closing out of the completed areas of the landfill, and that will reduce our long-term financial assurance obligations. We must continue permitting new sales within our existing boundaries. And we must partner with a private entity to capture our landfill gas and use it for alternative energy sources. Here's where kind of what comes in with what was discussed earlier. We believe we need to develop a single stream recycling program and participate in some sort of regional sorting facility. This point we think is critical. Recycling today is way too complicated, especially for rural Tennessee. You've heard it, I've heard it, and I believe it to be true. There's two Tennessees. You got Metro Nashville, where we sit, and Metro Memphis and those bigger areas, and then there's the rural areas like us. Recycling is viewed differently in all those areas. And because of that, we need a tailored approach, not a one-size-fits-all mandate. Regional solutions can reduce the amount of weight being buried while also creating new revenue streams for local governments. I'll close with this. Trash is here and it's only growing. Smith County wants to be part of a regional solution to solid waste disposal. We want to partner with neighboring local governments and help meet their needs, but we do not want to take more on than we can responsibly handle. We don't want to become a major, thing. We want to be a partner. If Smith County stays in the landfill business, I truly believe we can accomplish these goals. It is our belief, and we've strengthened these beliefs over the past 7 years, that if there's going to be a landfill in Smith County, then Smith County should manage and operate that landfill. We've built strong relationships with the private market, and I respect what they do, and we don't want to compete with them, but we do want to be a partner in that market. TDEC, as I said earlier, has helped us at times when we truly needed it, and at other times has been a hindrance. I believe we all share the same goal: protecting our environment and our natural resources. If I could ask one thing of TDEC today, it would be that we work together as a partner and not just a regulatory agency. We must move forward and have forward thinking in how we handle this. Again, thank you all for allowing Johnny and I to be here. I say it a lot. There's days that I look around and think, how in the world did the good Lord let me be here? But this is pretty cool to get to sit here and get to talk to you guys, and we appreciate that time. And at this time, we would be glad to try to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you, Mayor. If every mayor in the state was going after solid waste the way you are, we wouldn't have a task force.
Well, we just Johnny says it all the time, and I believe it's true that we've accomplished a lot in the last 7 years, and I'll say it. And my job is, and his job has always been, is to do what's right and work hard, and that's all we've tried to do, is do the right thing and work hard.
So just a couple of clarifying questions I've got,
Yes, sir.
and I'll kick it to the rest of the group here. So you are 100% totally private. Everybody, it's county employees that are running this.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So how many
Everybody's-
folks are working for Johnny Lee here?
We have about 17, 18 if you count me on site.
And then our convenience sites is probably another
23 employees.
23 part-time
employees.
We run and manage all our convenience sites too, at no charge to our citizens.
Yeah.
You said you had, from capacity, you said you currently have 80 acres. Is that what you said?
That's just what we can sit and put our hand on, that we know, through some more investigations and clearing and removal, we can probably add more.
Well, how much tonnage are you bringing in annually? Do you know the amount?
I think it's right at 300. It ain't
At
right
our
now.
peak, we're
peak
kind of
is
been
300,000.
been cut back a little bit for right now because we're in a space crunch and getting a race to get a cell open. But
Yeah, annually before we decreased, we were running a little over 300,000 a year.
Wow.
we serve 5 counties and a couple of private industries. This brings us either
Okay.
C and D or Class 1.
So you have 5 counties bringing it to you.
Yes,
Who,
sir.
who else is coming to you?
Rasco, which is Sumner County, Trousdale County, Macon County, Wilson County, and Jackson County right now. We have others that are beating our door down, and when we get our new cell open, that wants to come to us.
And is that a moneymaker for your county?
Yes. Well, it's a moneymaker for the landfill because the landfill is like a 207 fund, just like your sewer and water for your cities. We can't take money out of the landfill and put in the general government, but we don't take any money out of the general government to put in the landfill.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Now, if we could figure out a way someday to where we could do that, that'd be a big help.
You know, you mentioned recycling. You know, your citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's an appetite for the people that live in your community in rural Tennessee? Is there really an appetite to take a look at doing some of the things, curbside recycling, and some of these big ideas? I mean, that's a whole new way of thinking in Tennessee. I mean, how would people perceive that in Smith County?
It's not the forefront of their thinking. It is something that's going to take an education, and that's why I believe single stream is the best way to go with a sorting facility. Because if you ask people to put trash in 4 different boxes in their kitchen or their patio, I mean, we struggle with that. We have recycling bins at the landfill, or at our convenience sites, and sometimes it's a struggle to make people understand exactly. You take plastic. Well, you can put all the plastic in the world in there, and you put the wrong kind of plastic in there, and you've destroyed the whole load. So it ends up that. So it will take a mindset shift and some education to get that point across. And I like I said, if you say you can put your trash here and your cans, your bottles, your paper in this one, I think we can get there. Didn't get here overnight, not going to get there tomorrow, but it's a process, and I believe it can be done.
That's good. Other questions? Chairman Todd.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here, Mayor. Assuming that you guys are covering all your costs in this operation, maybe you're making some money for the future responsibilities that you have, and covering those costs, those predicted costs of closeout and all that. What do you have a per ton cost that you currently know overall of what you're receiving?
It's gone. So when I first came into office, we ran the numbers, and at that time we were either breaking even or possibly even burying a quarter with every ton we put down. Now, through his hard work and maintaining and getting better equipment and better things, we believe we're somewhere in that $18 to $20 range is what our cost is. I mean, it varies. I mean, one DEF system goes down and we're thinking so, in that range. Now that's probably not, as my good friend Stacy up there, that's probably a lot worse than what they do, but it's pretty good for government work, as they say.
And you're charging, do you charge by the ton?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you charge around that?
Yes, sir.
Fair price. Okay.
It's more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
can't tell you what that is? Stacy's here.
Is there a conversion? Is there a conversion of the per ton cost to a per cubic yard cost of really the airspace, which is really what should be measured?
Yes. I would. I don't know that we have those numbers. Okay. I can run those numbers and send them to you.
Be great. I'd just be curious about that. We talk about tonnage because it's easy to weigh, easy to measure.
Yeah.
Airspace is harder.
Yeah, we were doing those conversions on the way down here on another issue. So yeah, but I will get those information sent to you.
Thank you.
Ms. Coffin.
Be nice.
I will always be nice to you. You know that. So I just want to say thank you and Johnny for coming and giving the real world overview of what it's like to work day to day, running and operating a landfill as efficiently and in compliance as you possibly can. I just wanted to ask a question because we've not talked about it, but have you put an estimate on what it would cost to build a recycling facility in Smith County, or if you did curbside recycling, do you have a ballpark cost of what that would be?
No, not to be in all transparency and honesty. No, we've not sat down and put that. It's kind of I do this a lot. I'll quote Jerry Clower. We ain't caught the possum yet. We were just wondering if he's interested. And I completely agree with that. I understand. So, and the reason I ask that is because one, we've not spoken about it, but we've, as ongoing discussions are going on about,
what can we do to recycle? What can we do to get our communities involved? What is the education that's going to happen to make this happen and make it successful?
Right.
I know, your favorite county mayor who wants to be part of the Upper Cumberland district, but's not, we won't name his name, but, they just built a very innovative convenience center in their facility to help make it easier for your residential people to come in and easily identify the containers, and it's very easy to drop off. You're not cutting your cardboard to get in a slot. You're not taking your plastic out of a plastic bag, so you're not contaminated the load. But that convenience center alone cost them over $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and I was shocked at that. And I said, that's just unbelievable. But, but those are the types of things that this task force has got to figure out. Big picture of
absolutely
how we're going to do it and the education piece of it. And then the financial piece of it, because, I know one of the items that we put on here is, the TDEC fee for the volumes that are leaving the state of Tennessee. And I had, I had another meeting, and they said, well, how does that help with landfill airspace capacity? And my comment was, if we don't have those fees to help our municipalities, they don't have the money to create the opportunity to help with recycling.
Right.
So, but otherwise, I just want to say thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Running landfills not for everybody, and as I've said many times, there's days that we look at each other and we wouldn't wish it on the best Florida and Alabama fans.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, thanks again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information. I just have a quick question, and I should know the answer to this, but
that's scary.
Is Smith County?
I don't know. If you don't know, it's a possibility we don't.
Smith County part of a region for
we are.
regional?
We are. It's our APR is we're part of that, but our APR region is us, Macon County, and Trousdale.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're part of that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Mallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question and really a comment, Mayor. I'm from the Memphis area.
Yes, sir.
Could you explain to me what a possum is? No, my comment is during your presentation, you mentioned the fact that rural recycling is different from urban.
Yeah.
I will agree in part. However, from my perspective, the bigger issue is education around recycling.
Yes, that's kind of what I mean.
And that we have that problem in
Right.
the urban areas as well.
I mean, in our areas, and I probably shouldn't say this, I mean, we're not 40 years away from my grandparents burning trash in a creek bed, and what was left got washed away and the rest of it was gone. I mean, that's just how we did things. And that's how, we don't do that today. But we also know that if there's a day that the convenience sites ain't open, you better look out, because there'll be an illegal dump somewhere that day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duckett. Mr. Mallon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Both of you for the presentation. I wasted a lot of my childhood where I should have been doing homework, listening to Jerry Clower 8 tracks.
That's exactly right.
Anyway,
I call him the great philosopher.
I agree. One of the greatest. And thank you for channeling that in this. We kind of got the bookends here, because we've got the literally at sea level on the ground, and then we've got people thinking about the possibilities.
Yeah.
Just two thoughts on the from living 2 lifetimes in the scrap metal business as a junkyard lawyer. We would calculate with shredder fluff, a yard equals a ton.
Yep.
So just back of the napkin, if you're talking about something that dense,
yep.
That was the conversion.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about buying shredders, and then we looked around and said, why is nobody else doing this?
Yeah. I'm talking about automobile shredders.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah.
The 6,000 horsepower.
That's completely different.
But the fluff went to landfill, and then actually landfill.
We were buying some of that from, or Cooper's was providing some of this, and then TDEC cut us off. But
For the daily cover.
yes, sir.
Yeah, that
That was huge,
that
huge
was,
for us.
When TDEC used to allow that, it was very fortuitous. But one of the questions we were asked to answer for this event today was, should we do a pilot program first? That was just one of the 10,000 foot
That's right.
questions. Thank you for volunteering for that.
Yes, sir. Well, we're willing to do whatever has to be done. I mean, it's that important, and we want to be a part of that solution.
It was a pleasure hearing from you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions from the task force for our group here? Not seeing any. Appreciate you sharing with
Yes,
us
sir.
today.
Thank
very
y'all
much.
for allowing us to be here.
Certainly. So we're about 5 minutes to 1 o'clock. We've got 2 more presentations after lunch. We're going to hear from Mr. Tom Leonard with the Severe Solid Waste and Philip Davis with the City of Memphis Solid Waste Director as well. We actually have pizza being delivered in the cloakroom over here if you want to have a bite here. But let's try to get back in here by 1:30. Is that okay, Chairman? And then we'll try to push on from there. But if you want some pizza here, great. Otherwise, there's other options here in the building, okay? So let's take a break.